Hobbits are a curious and elusive race of Middle-earth, often overlooked by the more towering folk who dominate its history. They are small in stature and gentle by nature. Hobbits have a penchant for comfort, good food, and the quiet pleasures of home. Yet, did you know that there are actually more than one kind of Hobbit? These cheerful folk were divided into 4 types, 3 early ones with unique traits and histories that blend together over time, creating the Third Age Hobbit type. This isn't a ring of power thing, it's actually established Tolkien lore, so let's get to it. Hobbits are believed to be related to men, but their precise origins remain shrouded in mystery. Some scholars speculate that Hobbits are a diminutive branch of the Younger Children of Ilúvatar and created alongside men, but somehow smaller, humbler, and more secretive. They first appeared in the records of Middle-earth during the early Third Age, living a quiet life in the Vales of Anduin between the Misty Mountains and Mirkwood, yet they have always been in existence for millennia before. At that time, they lived close to the Northmen, but as the shadows of the world grew darker, they started to migrate westwards, crossing the Misty Mountains in search for safety, eventually settling in a land between the River Baranduin and the Weather Hills, establishing the Shire and other settlements nearby Bree, where they have lived for centuries till now. They are renowned for peace, comfort, and all things simple and wholesome, yet their culture as it is known today is the result of a slow evolution from a more diverse and wandering past. Long before they settled into their beloved Shire, Hobbits were a wandering people, divided into 3 distinct groups: the Harfoots, the Stoors, and the Fallowhides. Over time, their nomadic habits and diverse ways of life began to merge together, forming a unique and rich culture that embodies the best of all 3 Hobbit kinds. So physically, Hobbits stand between 2 and 4 feet tall, with males averaging around 3.5 feet and females sometimes exceeding 3 feet. Frodo, Sam, Merry, Pippin, even Bilbo all stood around 3.5 feet tall, a bit more than a meter tall. However, Bandobras the Bull Roarer Took was the tallest Hobbit to have ever existed. He was distinguished by his great height for a Hobbit, being 4.5 feet tall, thus being able to ride an actual horse. Anyway, they have slightly pointed ears, they have short legs, and notably furry feet with leathery soles, which makes shoes for them unnecessary. Compared to dwarves, Hobbits are a little bit shorter and less stocky. Despite their small stature though, they are remarkably resilient and possess hidden strengths which often emerge in times of need. So in their early days, Hobbits were divided into 3 types, each with their own customs, with their own temperaments and way of life. These types were known as the Harfoots, the Stoors, and the Fallowhides. So starting with the Harfoots, they were the most numerous and are considered the typical Hobbits. They were shorter and brown of skin than the others, with a preference for living in burrows and holes. Harfoots had a strong affinity for settled life, for farming and avoiding larger folk. They were industrious and quiet, the true embodiment of Hobbit simplicity and a love for an unadventurous existence. Over time, their way of life became the standard for Hobbits, making them the most recognizable type. Then we have the Stoors. They were distinctive for their broader, sturdier build, and they often grew facial hair, unlike other Hobbits. Stoors had a particular fondness for water, for boats and fishing, which set them apart from their land-loving cousins. They were known for living near rivers and marshes, and some even wore boots to navigate the wetlands. The Stoors were a bit more rugged and practical, which would be later reflected in the characters like Smeagol, who became Gollum. They were less wary of other folk and sometimes even mingled with men, which gave them a broader perspective of the outside world. This affinity for water and a certain ruggedness added a layer of practicality and resilience to the Hobbit culture, especially in their early interactions with the other races of Middle-earth. Then lastly we have the Fallowhides. They were the least numerous, but the most adventurous of the Hobbit types. Taller and fairer of skin than the others, they were often more outgoing and friendly towards other races, such as elves and men, and even dwarves. Fallowhides were known for their leadership qualities, and many of the early Hobbit chieftains and clan leaders came from this kind. They enjoyed hunting and the great outdoors, making them more spirited and bold. And as the ages passed, these 3 types of Hobbits, the Harfoots, the Stoors and the Falahides began to intermingle, particularly during their wandering days, when they crossed the east of Middle-earth into the west, crossing the Misty Mountains and seeking new lands to settle. They blended their habits, forming a unified culture that combined the strengths of each group. So over the course of centuries, as the Hobbits wandered and settled in new lands, these three types began to intermix. The distinction between Harfoots, Stoors and Falahides gradually blurred, giving rise to the Hobbits of the Third Age, a blend of characteristics from all three types. Most Hobbits came to exhibit the quiet, comfort-loving traits of the Harfoots, with a touch of Stoor's practicality and the Falahides' adventurous spirit coming in every now and then, traits that would come to the fore in times of great peril, such as during the quest for Erebor and the War of the Ring. This mix created a people who, despite their small size and love for peace, showed great courage and resilience when called upon, leaving a surprising mark on the history of Middle-earth, with them gradually shaping the fortunes of all. So the Third Age Hobbits differ greatly from their Harfoot, Stoors and Falahide ancestors, having evolved from a more diverse nomadic people into a more settled and unified society. While early Hobbits were divided into distinct groups with unique customs, such as Harfoots being the most numerous and known for their agrarian lifestyle, Stoors for their affinity for water and fishing, and the Falahides known for their adventurous spirit and openness for outsiders, the Third Age Hobbits represent a blend of these traits, unified by a shared culture and homeland. They have abandoned their once wandering ways and settled in the Shire, embracing a quiet, stable life focused on farming, community, and simple pleasures such as eating, socializing, and celebrating. Yet, the traces of their ancestral differences remain. Just as character traits of a father is passed down to a son, this includes the Falahide curiosity and adventurousness, which are found in families like the line of the Tooks, or the Stoor fondness for boating that are found in Hobbits staying near the Brandywine River. Also, the characters Deagle and Smeagol were stated to be members of this subtype of Hobbit. They were Stoors before becoming intermixed to give rise to modern-day Hobbits, probably staying near the Anduin, which would explain why Gollum asked, "What are Hobbits, precious?" since he was born when the three types were separate, so there was no Hobbits, there were just Harfoots, Falahides and Stoors. So the Bagginses represent the best of these three, with the Harfoot gene being the most prominent, while the Stoor being the least, and the Falahide side showing up every now and then when the need arises. And so with that, we end this short video on the 4 types of Hobbits or Halflings in Middle-earth. Now, if you liked this video, then watch this other one too, and do check out our channel for other dragon, Middle-earth and monster content. We might have things you haven't seen before. Like, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video. Take care, guys.